I think someone was doing a rerun of the national lockdown 25th, not 25th, 23rd, wala, no? So, for the benefit of everyone who's here, if everyone could keep their mics on mute, and whenever we need to ask a question, then we can unmute it. It's just a little easier. Otherwise, we've got Shubham who's managing this entire thing. He can mute all of this mics remotely. But just, yeah, if someone happens to turn on their mic accidentally, please do mute it. And just quick count, we're up to about 100 people, but we're just waiting for Jitendra sir and Ganpati sir to join. I think Raghav might be able to do a quick check with them and see if they're caught up somewhere.
Yeah, they're just joining.
Okay, awesome. So, yeah, a couple of more minutes then. Shubham, I think you have to make Nishchay an organizer, right?
Sir, Nishchay sir has joined through a mobile device, so he can't be said as an organizer.
Okay, just the same thing which I am. I'm not an organizer. I'm just unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So Nishchay, you have to just unmute, I think. Yeah, when you need to talk. The rest of it's exactly the same.
Hello, Raghav.
Yep, I'm saying I
Hello.
just was running through. Yeah, Nishchay.
Aditya,
Hello, Jitendra Sharma this side, Raghav. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Hi Jitendra sir, how are you? This is Aditya.
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, Aditya?
Very good, sir. Thank you so much for taking out the time. Thank you for joining us. I think you've got a lot of fans who are in the audience and a lot of people who would have wanted to ask you a lot of questions on how you built Okinawa.
Yeah. Sure.
How is the lockdown going, sir?
Enjoying with my family.
Wow. So that, I think that in itself shows the difference between leaders and, people who are aspiring to get there. The response is always positive.
Yeah.
It's the best answer I've heard too. Yeah, how is the lockdown going so far? Super. Shubham, could you make Jitendra sir an organizer?
Video. Yeah, Raghav, it will be video or it will be only audio?
So we've got a couple of people who've joined in just through the phone. So Nishchay from Bounce is here on his mobile device. I'm also on the mobile device. But if you're on video, sir, that would be amazing. If you could come on. I think Raghav can also come on video. You could be on video. And if Naman and Ganpati sir are able to come on video, then it'll be really nice.
Yeah, I'm okay with both the options.
Awesome. No, if we can do video, that makes it far more interactive. Shubham, can you enable Jitendra sir's video? Same thing with Naman, same thing with Raghav. And once Ganpati sir joins, then same thing with him. I'm assuming Aditya, you're on mobile, right?
Aditya, Ganpati sir has also joined.
Awesome. Okay. Hi Ganpati sir. Good afternoon. This is Aditya from Inverted. Okay, we just got a little bit of disturbance, sir, on your mic. So if you could just speak a couple of sentences, then I think Shubham can try and cancel out some of the interference.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir. Much, much better.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Super, sir. Super, sir. Okay, so I think we're all set. I'm just going to quickly, Shubham, would you be able to turn on videos for whichever one of the speakers is on a computer?
Sir, they have the option to turn on their webcam, I think.
Okay, nice. I don't see Jitendra sir in the list of organizers though. So if he's not there, how will he turn it on? Okay, great. I see Raghav, I see Naman. Yep, I see Yep, I see Jitinderji, is that right? Or is that Ganpati sir?
Can you see me?
It's just a bit fragmented. Yep, I can see three. I can see three faces. Yep, I think it's Ganpati sir. Yep. Awesome. So I see Raghav, I see Naman, and I see Ganpati sir, right? Jitinder sir?
This conference will
Yeah.
now be this conference is no longer being recorded.
Yeah, Aditya, yes.
This
me.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay, super sir. I think that we're good to go. Everyone from the speaker side, if you can just give me a thumbs up, so then we can start off.
Yes, sure, we can start.
Okay, amazing. So, everyone who has, someone needs to turn off the mic.
So, Nishya, I think there is some disturbance on our side.
Pardon me, Raghav, I couldn't hear you.
I'm saying that there is some disturbance on your side. So, I think so you can just readjust your mic or something. Cool. Aditya, you can start now.
Okay, fantastic. So great. First and foremost, everyone, thank you for being here. From our side, thank you to all of the speakers. I think y'all are very busy in spite of the fact that the country is in lockdown. I think all of y'all are working far harder than we would work during normal hours, because it's just difficult to get everything in order, ensure that the teams are motivated, ensure that you're planning well for post-COVID. So I think taking out time from your schedules and joining us, and all of the people who want to hear what the future of the EV industry might be, it's really nice of y'all. I'm going to do a quick introduction to everyone so that on the audience side, everyone knows who we're talking to. I'll start off with Jitinder sir. Jitinder ji is founder and managing director of Okinawa. I think it's the most consumer-facing electric vehicle brand that everyone would have seen. Lots of showrooms, lots of vehicles on the road, great performance, and I think a story of how to grow in one particular industry exemplified by Jitinder ji. He's been in the automobile line, I think, since he started, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been a good 14, 15 years. He knows exactly what quality means. He knows exactly what Japanese quality means. And to take the dive and start off an EV brand far before EV was as popular as it is today took a lot of courage. So thank you so much, Jitinder sir, for joining us. Cool. Now we've also got Ganpati sir from Big Basket. Ganpati sir I've never had the chance to directly speak to him, but I've heard a lot of praise about him from Raghav, who is fortunate to be, interacting with him on multiple occasions. And what stands out, I think, about him is just how helpful he is to people who can be complete strangers. So I know this because I think he's connected us as a very small startup which wants to make good lithium-ion batteries to a multiple number of companies without having any background to us, I think. So just that, I think, is an introduction which would say a lot about the person. Professionally, I just looked up his LinkedIn profile and it says agriculture from 2017 till date. So I love that part. Apart from that, obviously, he's heading innovation at Big Basket. And I think we can expect to see a lot of new innovations coming out of Big Basket, led by Ganpati sir post-COVID. So thank you, Ganpati sir, for joining us.
Thank you for having me here on the conference call. Just a small background to what I was earlier to piece of agriculture. I was in the Indian Navy, and I used to work on board electric submarines right from the time I joined Navy, almost going back 25 years ago. Presently, I'm with Big Basket for the past 2 years.
My introduction was spot on, right, sir? About you connecting us to multiple people.
Definitely, all the best to you guys.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, cool. We've also got Nishchay. Nishchay is Director, Supply and Monetization at Bounce. For everyone who's ever been to Bangalore, I think you know exactly what Bounce is. It's all over the place. I'm not sure about this, so Nishchay, correct me if I'm wrong, but Bounce is the largest shared two-wheeler ecosystem that exists globally. And I think...
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah, so I was
that's
amazed
right.
when I went to Bangalore last time. Just the number of yellow bikes with red stripes that you see is fantastic. It's amazing. And there are a bunch of loyalists in Bangalore who swear by Bounce. So they would not get onto a bus, they would not get onto a rickshaw, they would not get into a metro. They only travel by bounce. So I think what you all have built is absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us here.
Sure, it's a pleasure.
Super. And then we've got Naman, who is who's VP at Stellaris. I just saw his face for the first time. He looks really, really young. I think graduated from IIT Bombay 2012, and he's run a couple of startups. So he's seen both sides, I think, now of the entire ecosystem, what it is to hustle, be an entrepreneur, face setbacks, go through good times, bad times, have the thrill of getting funded. And now he's on the other side of the table. So he knows exactly what it must be like to be slush with funds and looking for companies to actually deploy that money usefully. So thank you so much, Naman, for joining us.
Thank you guys for inviting me.
And last but not least, we've got Raghav. Raghav is one of my closest friends. Someone it took us, I think Rahul, me and Arvind, 2.5 years to convince that, boss, we must do something together. And finally, he thought that, this is probably the right industry in terms of lithium-ion batteries, EVs, and he agreed to it. He's been at Revigo, where he built the entire part load infrastructure for that line of their business. He's also run a couple of startups, so both of which were, very well. They're going really, really well. And I think, let's see, lithium-ion batteries, EV as an ecosystem, as the future holds a lot of promise. So thank you, Raghav, for taking out the time and joining us. And he's gotten everyone who's on the panel together. So I think, he can also express his thanks to everyone. He knows them very well.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I really appreciate you guys taking out time.
Awesome. So I'll just set the tone for what we're trying to do over here. We've done a couple of these sessions over the last 2 weeks. And, feedback that we get from a lot of participants is what we try and base like the next talk on. And when we've done a lot of talks on batteries, the immediate question that's come forth is, how do we see electric vehicles growing? How do we see the entire ecosystem growing? Where is the innovation that lies there? How much indigenization can happen? Whole host of questions. And when we get asked all of these things, we obviously don't know the answers. So we try and attend a lot of webinars. And we figured that if we're able to get 4 or 5 leaders of the industries share their thoughts with us, what better than that? And I think that's why we need to say thank you to everyone who's over here. And just to start off with, we'll discuss COVID, we'll discuss EVs before COVID, we'll try and discuss EVs after COVID, and try and get a sense of where the opportunities lie, where the challenges might lie. So just to start off with, Jitendra sir, if you can tell us, how have you seen electric vehicles as an industry grow for the period that you've been here? And how much of a blip do you think COVID is going to be in that growth pattern? So just in terms of how deep do you think the impact of COVID will be in India for the EV ecosystem?
Yeah, Aditya. If you see when Okinawa has started, we started in 2015 and we start our first launch in 2017. If you see this journey from last 3.5 years, it's really fantastic. Now the market is changing. Even the people know about how the EV vehicle behaves. Because earlier, if you see before 2017 or 16, the vehicles which were available in the market, they seems to be a slow speed vehicles and it looks like a toy vehicles, I would say. Because people always think, they always have a doubt about they have the perception that electric vehicle is not a performance vehicle. But now the time is changing. If you see all the new players who are coming in, so they are good to go with the performance vehicle, same as the IC engine. And same way when we launched our first product, that was the high speed vehicle, and they have the long range, because people always have two perception about the vehicle, is that the vehicle is a slow speed vehicle, they don't have the power. Second, they have the range anxiety. So how to take care of all these two things for the consumer point of view? So Okinawa had decided to come with the high speed vehicle with the long range vehicle. That is our main USP. That time, initially days, we we have developed some few patents by the Okinawa regarding that the powertrain, because that is the most important part of any vehicle. Like if you see controller, battery, BMS, and third is the motor. So then now if you see the market is shifting from IC approach, because the awareness is going on, is coming a lot. because government is also pushing, people also understand, because now the future is electric vehicle only, because there's a lots of reason where there is a pollution, it's a cost economics, if you see like the running cost of the electric vehicle as compared to the petrol vehicles. So there is a lots of benefits which are going on. So that is one of the reason people now make them understand, because now the market of course will shift from IC engine to the electric vehicles. And in last 3 years we have seen lots of changes. The people are shifting from IC to the petrol to the electric vehicles, and that's why this market is growing. So last 3 years this market is growing, and I think in future it is going to be grown like anything. And future is of course is the EV. And the same way, if you ask me about this COVID-19, so everybody knows this is a pandemic which is growing all over the world, and it is just like a lockdown situation all over the world, not for India. But with the same time is always, I would say, there is a chance to improve with every opportunity. I would say once, because the as at this moment, the most important thing is the health of people of our country. So government is working on that. So that is the first priority. But once it is settled down, I think the people will of course go for the personal mobility. That is the very important thing, because everybody knows this COVID-19, it's spread through by that touching of the people, because social distancing is very important in this. So I think people will understand, they will, I think, avoid using the public transport, they will go for the for personal mobility. And by this, there is a chances of growing of the two-wheeler market, of course. And
So
two-wheeler
then,
market, yeah.
sorry, I think
So
very interestingly said, sir. With social distancing, with people coming in, becoming really conscious of hygiene, becoming really conscious of health, personal mobility should grow, and I think that's why EVs should grow. I also think that because of the environment getting so clean, and just everyone being able to see physically the impact that a clean environment can have, there would be some sort of shift in consumer behavior towards cleaner fuels or electric vehicles. So that's from the personal standpoint. Ganpati sir, do you think that that effect would also come through to commercial or B2B markets? So in terms of a big basket, would you all see an accelerated shift towards electric mobility because of COVID? Or do you think that the cost economics make sense today, and irrespective COVID or no COVID, the shift was imminent?
Thank you for that question. I'll just give a small background as to what we have been doing at Big Basket for the shift to electric mobility. See, our journey for on the electric mobility part started almost 4 years ago, and we have been continually engaged with various OEMs in the country for the shift to happen. And we have looked at both three-wheelers and two-wheeler segments. As I speak today, almost 15% of our three-wheelers are already shifted to electric, and 10% of our two-wheelers are already on electric. So notwithstanding COVID, we are looking at a continual gradual shift away from the old IC engines. Of course, cost matters, and the added benefit of non-polluting environment, particularly in cities like NCR, where already there was a huge backlash, and also because of stringent regulatory norms, because of pollution. We have already moved away to electric vehicles in these cities, and we continue on this journey to engage with manufacturers. And what we see in the next 1 year is that 20% of our vehicles would shift over to electric in the next 1 year or so.
So you're saying 20% of your total on-road vehicles would shift towards electric in the next year, sir? And how many would the on-road vehicles be currently?
Yeah, I said in the case of two-wheelers, it's 10%. And in the case of three-wheelers, it's 15%. So we'll add
and how much is the total population?
Yeah, see, these are three-wheelers, which are around 2,500 odd vehicles, and similarly another 2,500 odd, 5,000 odd two-wheelers.
So I think number wise, so a lot of logistics companies, a lot of home e-commerce delivery companies would be seeing a shift towards moving towards electric vehicles. So same question to Nishchay in terms of, it's very different. So what Jitinder said is that you would have personal mobility pickup. From a B2B perspective, Big Basket says that we're going to shift 10%, 15% of our fleet towards this. For Bounce in particular, COVID would have a much deeper impact, I would assume, because the same person sharing that bike would have some sort of reservation. Do you think that's something that y'all are planning for, or do you think it's something which y'all can manage effectively?
Yeah, as Jitendra sir said, we totally agree that post-COVID, it will be a little bit of a nightmare for public transportation and also shared mobility to a certain extent. But what we operate is pretty private in nature. User is on his own. He is riding the scooter on his own and is not sharing any close proximity. I mean, he's not sharing a lot of personal space with anyone else. So the probability of him getting infected on a bounce scooter is much lesser compared to anyone else, any other mode of public transportation for sure. And we are working with various organizations across the globe to use industrial grade disinfectants to make sure that the vehicles remain much safer. And we are also promoting a lot of personal hygiene, and we are educating how to be safe on a bounce scooter. This is pretty much same. The probability of one getting infected is same as any other mode of anything else that they do in their life. It can be simple grocery shopping. It can be just getting out of home. It can be anything. So the probability is no less or no more in anything, any other mode of commute or any other mode of transactions involved. Coming back to EV as a theory within bounces, we strongly believe EV is the future. We have invested heavily in engineering. We have invested heavily in research and development to ensure we slowly migrate everything into EV. Today's truth is IC, and there is no other go but IC, because of which we are operating with IC. But since last 4 months, we have done massive strides in EV sector. We have introduced more than 1,000 scooters. Collectively, it has clocked over 300,000 kilometers in last 4 months. We have served a lot of users. We are sitting on a massive data, and we are building. We have put together a great team to build our own EV. That's the future. There are a lot of good EVs already available in the market. Okinawa being one, Ether, and there are many promising companies also working on EVs like UV and a couple of other companies. But then. With all the operations over last 18 to 20 months, what we have understood is all the vehicles which are there on the vehicle are very well engineered. But it is all thought from a personal use perspective. Whatever a ride-sharing vehicle goes through is pretty massive usage in terms of a vehicle will be used for at least 8 to 9 hours in a day, but will be used by 10 to 12 different guys. So these vehicles may not withstand, be it IC or EV, everything. And also the kind of weather or wear and tear it goes through is massive. Because of which we thought we need to build a vehicle from grounds up. Because of which we invested heavily in designing and developing our own EV. We have already done a couple of prototypes. We did some kind of road tests, and the results are very impressive. If you are following media, you would have read the recent developments that we did. We were able to drop a vehicle from 20 feet high, and it was undeterred. We were able to simply start the vehicle and run it off. That's the kind of reliability we have achieved over last 1.5 years of engineering. Yes, but coming back to COVID impact on this, organizations B2B space will continuously put effort to adopt EV for various reasons. It makes a lot of sense from a unit economics standpoint. It makes a lot of sense from maintenance standpoint, because it will have very less moving parts. The kind of wear and tear it goes through compared to an IC will be very less. There is no carburetor, there is no engine oil. There are not many things which has to be maintained on a regular basis on an EV. So B2B will always favor a EV is what we believe in. And COVID will have a certain impact from an engineering standpoint. A lot of companies who are in uh, deep real sciences who are working on EV tech, we believe there may be some impact of funding there because overall funding may get impacted over next 18 to 24 months. Apart from that, I think EV is the future.
Awesome. So I think I got a couple of really, really good points from what you said. One, hats off. You've been able to drop an EV from 20 feet high and not have the battery explode, which is amazing. So you all have done something phenomenal with the design, I'm sure. And the second interesting thing which I picked up was that normally people would think of bounce as ride sharing probably being a little risky. But from your conversation, what I could make out is people might actually shift from metros and from crowded buses towards bounce because it's far less possible to contract the disease over there. So Naman, from the perspective of someone who is funding all of these startups, who is evaluating the future of mobility, do you think that shift is going to come towards more personal mobility, but probably also shared personal mobility, and getting a market which will move from metro and buses towards, say, bounces, Vogos, Ulus? Do you see that happening in the future?
If we talk about the long term, definitely we believe EV is a space which is definitely going to happen. In the mid to long term, we're talking about anything 3 to 5 years or more. EVs are going to be there. We believe that for commercial use case, whether it is logistics or mobility, both of them are going to be fast adopter as compared to consumer personal commute use case. So yes, shared mobility would be more preferred as compared to public transport, and EVs are going to see higher adoption for shared mobility, whether it is logistics or mobility like transfer of goods or transfer of people, instead of a consumer use case.
Awesome. Dagav, I think you're in the unique position of actually being in touch with both sides of these markets. So since y'all are looking at supplying batteries to, either to any electric vehicle manufacturer, you would have a connect or a pulse of what is B2C demand going to look like, and also what B2B demand kind of looks like. What do you think the next lever for growth of EVs as a market might be? Do you see it coming from B2C or do you see it coming from B2B? And if you could just put that into a time horizon of 12 months, 18 months, 5 years.
Thank you so much, Aditya. So to your question, what would, according to me, be the lever of growth for electric vehicles in the future? So I believe in the next 12 to 18 months, we should see a significant uptake of electric vehicles in the B2B space. For somebody like a Big Basket or for any of these e-commerce, logistics, hyperlocal companies, one of the single biggest determinant to what vehicle should they be adopting is unit economics. And from what I understand is the cost of operating an electric vehicle is almost 1/10 of that of an ICE vehicle. So given that everybody today is under cost pressure, everybody is under the pressure of showcasing that on a unit economics they are positive. There are questions that are being raised on how sustainable these companies are, how sustainable the growth of these companies would be, and one of the levers for them to achieve positive unit economics would be reducing the cost of last mile operation, and electric vehicles fits perfectly into that. So that's my sense on it. That said, on the B2C space, as all of us has seen over the last 45 days, that vehicular pollution has a massive impact on the environment. Previously, it was debated whether it could be because of particular pollution, it could be because of construction, it could be because of n number of other reasons. But what we've come to realize that vehicular pollution also plays a significant impact in causing pollution. So from a personal perspective, for example, if I talk about myself, I would be far more conscious about the environment now. I would be far more conscious about polluting the environment. And hence, if given an option, I would definitely love to adopt to EV. And there would be multiple such consumers who would be willing to adopt to EVs, seeing the impact. So yeah, so that's my 2 cents on it. So while the primary driver should be B2B companies, and then B2C companies should also start, B2C application would also start seeing an uptake.
Yes, I think finally we're going to have Indians who are going to be conscious about the environment. We've had multiple talks like this. We've asked this question to multiple panelists, and everyone somewhere believes that that time has come where Indians will make a decision based on the environment rather than just on unit economics or on what is my cost of just getting the product. So in this space, I think Jitender ji is uniquely positioned that he has the upside on B2C demand and on B2B demand. But I also think that he is uniquely positioned in having a pulse of the market and of a consumer because of the fact that he has showrooms and there are multiple channel partners, all of which give you a sense of what's going to happen. So again, Jitender ji, do you think you can just share with us what have you seen to be the biggest challenges in EVs growing at the pace that they've grown in China? And why is India still lagging behind? So why are we not at even single digit percentage points of our total vehicle sales are EV? So where do you think the challenges lie? Is it government policy? Is it consumer ignorance? Is it too much interference from the government side? Where do you think that challenge lies today?
Okay. Aditya, in my opinion, I think the biggest challenge is the awareness, because the awareness about the product is very, very less in the consumer minds. Because I told earlier also, whenever you talk about the electric vehicles, people always think this is a low performance vehicle. So that's why if you see, this is a human psychology, a human nature. When we are using the petrol vehicles for last 50 years, 60 years, all these two-wheelers we are running, even I also ride when I was young, in the school college time. So I used to drive the petrol vehicles. So the mindset of the people is like this. They always think the petrol vehicle is good, they are fast, they are more better performance. So the awareness about the electric vehicle, their technology, how it behaves, how it works. So that is the gap related to the product and the consumer. So this is one of the reason people are not getting confidence. But that was the earlier situation. But if you see for the last 1 year, now the perception of the consumer is going to change. Even they are changing. So now because when there is a good product in the market, they always think, okay, let's try out. Because I'm sure if the best part of the electric two-wheeler is that if you ride it electric two vehicles, if it is a high-speed vehicle, I can tell you, you will never go for the petrol vehicles. The ride is so smooth, the vehicle is so good. So you love to use these electric vehicles. So that is one of the reason is the awareness, the biggest reason. In the consumer mind, people don't know about whether the good product is available in the market or not. The second important thing is the supply chain, because the consumer always think that whatever the vehicles available in the market, they are just importing the parts from outside India and they are just selling the vehicles, and they don't have the confidence about the product quality and the company. That is another part. So these are the two big challenges that comes in the consumer mind. But now, as I told you, now it's already changing because last year there's a new policy of the government has came as the FAME 2 that talk about the localization of the parts, the performance of the vehicles. So the companies who are just got this FAME 2, the consumer are getting more confidence on those products. Unfortunately, in that space, Okinawa was the first company in India who's got this FAME 2, that the localization of the parts and the performance of the scooter in last year. So now these two things are the major bottlenecks related to that, but now it's changing. So awareness is the most important parameter for the product awareness of the electric vehicles.
Nice. Thank you so much, sir. I think, awareness is something which, if we're able to drive into consumers' mindset, then they're able to evaluate the option. And I can say this personally, that the amount of noise that there was on EVs in, say, 2014 or 15 was negligible. The amount of noise that there is in terms of media share of voice or just in terms of hoardings and awareness of consumers has definitely increased. There's a long way to go. But Ganpati sir, from a B2B perspective and evaluating logistics supply chains, what is the limitation for you all to reach your 80% target of electrifying your all your delivery vehicles vis-a-vis having the targets of 10% and 15%? And again, this is in a utopian society where you say that if all these things were in place, then we have no challenge in going to 80% or 90% of our fleet being all electric. Where do you think that challenge is, and where do you think the government can step in and provide some sort of impetus?
Yeah, I'd like to answer the question in two ways. From a big basket perspective, we don't own any vehicles. We're extremely asset light, and we prefer our delivery partners to own the vehicles or our third-party aggregators to own the vehicles. and we work with them on a cost per order basis. So that's where we come from in terms of the vehicle part of it. So to enthuse people within our own fold, what we have done at Big Basket is, as I said that for 4 years we have been working on this space of getting vehicles into the company through this means. We also realized that if you want to enthuse individuals to go in for vehicles on their own, we need to educate them, as Mr. Jitendra brought out correctly. So we've been having a continuous campaign within the company. All our delivery partners have been introduced to electric vehicles. And what we have also done up is that we have engaged with the government of India, and through one of the banks, we have arranged for loans so that if any of our delivery partners would like to buy a vehicle, whether it is two-wheeler or a three-wheeler, up to 5 lakh of rupees, be provided to them at a low interest rate, and they can go ahead and buy the vehicle, and we will guarantee business to them. Mind you, all this has been done much before the pre-COVID era, and this has got nothing to do with COVID. We have engaged with all our partners much in advance, and we are seeing traction on this front.
Very nice, sir. I think if you all can take the lead as, informing the MSME sector or pushing them towards electric adoption, I think that in itself is spreading awareness. It also, it's kind of socially responsible, and it helps the entire economy or ecosystem move towards electrification. Nishya, same question, just from a B2C perspective. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that. Besides what you are already asked, and also regarding the vehicle performance in terms of transition from lead acid to a lithium ion based battery, what I have personally seen in the past 2 years is that there's been a transition and there's a mindset change in the drivers who are using it. One. Second is the question of range anxiety. As a Big Basket, we have attempted to tackle that, and probably if we are going to take the question towards that, I can answer that in the next segment when I will take the question. Right?
Super, sir. Thank you so much. If I do, in fact, forget, so please do add your 2 cents when next time you're speaking on this. But just Nishya, same question. What do you feel is any sort of accelerant that you can get from the government or from the VC side or from consumers to just take that hockey stick kind of growth that all VCs talk about? So if you are at, say, 10% of your fleet today is electric, what does it need for you to go from 10% to 90% of that fleet being electric, apart from cost?
It's a couple of things for sure. One is we need to convince a lot of investor community, not just the VCs, but debt markets, NBFCs, and all of these guys to back the purchase of EVs. That is one major. The major reservation most of the institutional lenders have is what is the resale value. If someone defaults on payments, even if I repo this vehicle, will I be able to get a fair share and fair market value to recover the money lent to procure this vehicle? Apart from that, range, a lot of things has to be done in the range. There should be a lot of relaxation when it comes to import of parts till we start manufacturing everything in India, including battery packs, including the challenges around importing all this parts. Apart from that, government should also go on a front foot to identify all the manufacturers across the globe, start working with them to make sure that they are BIS compliant even before we start importing, so that government publishes, okay, we have identified 5 more partners who are manufacturing cells, which is this grade, this, so that more and more companies, more and more B2C companies also start importing these things or buying products from local manufacturers who source their raw materials from these channels.
Awesome. So I'm just going to skip Naman and go to Raghav just because I want to know that from batteries, on the battery front, what is the kind of support that you feel is lacking? And again, from any accelerant, it could be government, it could be VCs, it could be banks. What do you think is limiting you from having a 1 gigawatt hour manufacturing facility today to supply to the EV ecosystem?
So thank you, Aditya. Before answering that particular question, I will just try and answer a couple of doubts which were raised both by Ganpati sir and by Nishchay, that one of the reasons which is not letting the EV ecosystem grow is lack of support from NBFCs and from financing companies. So while a lot of these challenges can be easily resolved by having a much better designed and a sophisticated battery. So one of the things that Nishchay highlighted was that one of the challenges that a NBFC or a finance company faces, that in case if there is a default on the EMI, how do they recover their payments? So that is something which is sort of easily can be done using the battery. So the battery has an immobilization capability. The battery has a GPS tracker, and if the vehicle goes beyond a certain periphery or a certain parameter, you can easily immobilize it. Then one of the things that he again highlighted was on the range anxiety bit of it, that consumers are a little cautious as to what sort of a range they'll be getting. Will they be able to reach their warehouses, their houses, their offices, etc.? So a large part of this can easily be resolved through the battery, and that's something that we at Inverted are working very aggressively on. We've sort of spent a lot over R&D over the last 12 to 18 months to build some of these capabilities in terms of working on the BMS to be able to communicate remotely and to be able to give instructions to the battery to immobilize or the vehicle to immobilize, or to be able to just work on the quality of cells, just work on the quality of thermal management and the mechanical design to ensure that with the same set of batteries, we're able to give a 20% higher range, which solves for some bit of range anxiety that the customer has today. So that's something which is already, there is a lot of work happening in that direction to address some of these concerns which Ganpati sir and Nishchay highlighted. To your question today, what is stopping...
Raghav, just a moment. What I meant was, NBFCs has reservation, meaning say a vehicle has already run for a year, will there be a secondary market for this? Say one guy defaults and says, I can't pay you back, so please take my vehicle back. At that point of time, NBFCs are not sure whether they will be able to recover the cost by selling this in the market. Will there be any buyers in the market for these vehicles? That is the major challenge, that there is no secondary market. For example, if an NBFC funds a Honda Activa, after 1 year, they are sure that if they sell it off in the market, they're able to recover a certain assured cost based on the industry standard. That benchmark is not there for an EV yet, because of which there's a lot of reservations around. They cannot extend their exposure too long, so that for which they don't know the secondary value.
Right. So Nishchay, that's also something that both the battery manufacturers and the government is trying to do. So people are trying to ascertain resale values for these batteries, because as you would know globally, what has happened is that batteries which were previously used in electric vehicles can easily be used for low abuse application like home storage or solar applications. So that's an alternate market which is in the process of developing, and we are again very aggressively working in that direction as well. To ensure that after a certain period of this battery is being used in an electric vehicle application, how do we ascertain to a very high degree of accuracy that what is the resale value? And I believe in the next 12 months or 18 months, we should be in a position to accurately ascertain that value as well. Because when you start deploying a more sophisticated BMS into these batteries, you can actually exactly determine what is the degradation which has happened to these batteries, how much kilometers have these batteries run already, what is the capacity left in those batteries, and hence once we're able to attribute all of that, we should be able to put it into an alternate application once they're used in electric vehicles.
Very awesome. Raghav, I'm just going to ask Naman one question, because a couple of people have asked this. Naman, how do you see the impact of falling oil prices and diesel prices on the uptake of EVs? And again, from we all look at VCs as having this crystal ball that you all can look into the future, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and say that this is what's going to happen definitively, and then everyone just follows. So have you kind of factored that into what sort of investments you all would be looking to make? Or is it just a blip and you feel that EVs will continue to grow?
So Aditya, that was a thought in our mind that the weight economics will not be like as weighted as it was earlier with the falling oil prices. But what we have seen so far is the falling crude prices have not been like resulted into lower prices for petrol and diesel, and hence for an end consumer, this is most likely not going to impact too much in terms of economics. But yes, if you apply a macro lens, there is some reduction in the weight of the economics argument in favor of the IC vehicles. That does not mean that EV will not happen. It is just that might probably delayed by 6 months or maybe a 12 months period. The adoption might be a little bit slower because of that, and nothing to do with the adoption on the demand side, consumer side. Maybe some macro elements, like we're talking about NBFCs or government subsidies or large scale private equity investors, they might want to maybe wait and watch for maybe next 12 to 18 months instead of going very aggressively right now because of falling oil prices.
Okay, awesome. And so Jitenderji, I just had this question pop into my mind. And again, you're the stalwart of EVs, you're the stalwart of understanding how electric vehicle pickup is happening. What was your opinion on Micromax's strategy when they entered and when they had these EMI schemes being rolled out? So what was your take on it? And do you think that there is some sort of benefit in doing this staggered payment model, or just showing people that it's very cheap to own a two-wheeler? Or do you feel that traditional retail, pushing it out of a showroom, getting consumers to buy into the concept, may be a slow burner, but that's what the growth path should be for EVs?
Yeah, Aditya, like every company have the different strategy. So maybe the Revolt has decided to go by this because they must have the background of the selling the mobile phones. So that's why maybe they adopted this strategy. But if you see, as my experience of 20 years in the automobile two-wheeler industry, and if you see the other big players who is already in the IC engine, because this strategy is not suitable for the automobile line. The reason behind that, because if you see, for example, as I told you, EV is a new market now, which is going to grow in future. So once you buy any scooter or motorcycle at this stage, maybe you just pay 5,000 rupees and you have a EMI for next 3 years on this lease basis. Like, so maybe after some time you find this vehicle is not performing good, or maybe you find, okay, let's try the another one, and you said, okay, I don't want to buy this, I want to give it back. So what will happen with those vehicles? That is the another question mark. So I think in our company opinion, my opinion, if you say personally, so I think that strategy is not good. Otherwise, like the big players who is already in this market, they have a very deep pockets. They can do everything. They can give the scooter or motorcycle as a cost of 10 rupees. You can take, you give 10 rupees, you take the bike, and maybe after 5 years, you can pay something like that. So I think that strategy, that's why I said every company have their different opinion. But in my opinion, for the automobile, the two-wheeler, I think this strategy is not the viable. It's not it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so just interesting perspective. I think everyone's heard of Revolt, everyone's seen their ads. That's why it's very in your face, but nice to have your perspective, especially since you've got so much experience in automobiles. And Ganpati sir, just not necessarily linked to EVs also, but since you've got a lot of experience, and how long do you think it's going to take for the entire economy and then also EVs to bounce back from the impact of COVID? How do you see the economy restructuring, and what opportunities do you think that new restructuring or the new means of people working will provide to anyone who wants to work with a big basket or similarly logistics players?
I look at it like this, that it's a question of survival of the fittest. The person who is nimble enough, who's able to address the industry concerns, is able to take on challenges and provide answers to tough questions, will be the guy who will be standing. It's as simple as that, and nothing more than that.
Yep, so I think Nischay, would you agree with that? That survival of the fittest, how have you planned for bounce? And I think you'd handle monetization. So that's very critical to the survival of any company. So how do you view that impact?
Yeah, COVID will certainly open up a lot of doors for us. It is a great opportunity. We need to ensure that we nudge the user in the right direction so that they can start using our platform much more. And there are two levers. One is shaping the user behavior, and second thing is how do I optimize my cost? How do I start becoming profitable at every transaction level? And in the past 4 months data, it's very clear that EV works for us. EV works well in this space, and it makes a lot of sense from a unit economics standpoint. The cost per kilometer, the number of times it has to go through service, then a downtime in overall perspective, a little bit of strengthening of supply chain to ensure that spares and parts are available uh, much in advance and everywhere across, and we need not hoard those things. EV makes a lot of sense, and we are doing everything to ensure that we migrate to EV as soon as possible.
Okay, so awesome. So Raghav, I kind of cut you off last time you were answering the question. So what kind of incentives or what kind of accelerant would you look forward to from the government side or from a VC perspective post COVID, which would help India indigenize a lot of the parts that are being used for EVs today?
So thank you, Aditya. So as what Ganpati sir and Nishchay and Jitendra sir were highlighting, we just generally need just need a better quality product to be there. And for us as a community, as a society, we need to move towards value-based purchasing rather than just cost-based purchasing. So a lot of time we just look at what is the short-term operating cost of buying a particular vehicle. So from that perspective, today we should start moving towards better quality products. So why are we dependent upon Chinese cells for some of these battery packs? So why do we not move towards Japan, Korea, Europe for some of these technology? So that's something that we as a community need to start doing. So that's one part. So when you talk about support that we're looking support we're looking from the government, so that's one thing that we need to sort of decide and do, that to ensure that we're not being reliant on Chinese products. And we should, as an ecosystem, we should try and indigenize as many components as possible, whether it is the motor, the controller, the battery pack assembly. In terms of manufacturing of these cells in India today, it seems it's a slightly distant dream. It's not happening in the next 12 to 18 months. And hence, over the next 5 years, we should also start looking at moving some of the cell manufacturing to India to make India as competitive as possible. But in the short term, we should again try and move towards value selling towards from products not necessarily from China, but towards Korea, Japan, and Europe. So that's my sort of 2 cents on it.
So Jitendraji, I think you've got experience in terms of manufacturing. How dependent is the supply chain today on China? And what are the challenges that it would take to indigenize so many of the components? So motor, controller, battery, chassis, frame, so all of that. How realistic is this? And what time can we achieve it if we put in serious efforts?
I think this call has to be taken by all the OEMs as well as the supply chain, because now the things are moving. If you see, India is one of the biggest market of two-wheeler. So since beginning, when electric vehicles we started, so there was a big challenge for the supply chain in India, because always the supplier mind that how much is the volume, what is the volume size, that makes the sense for them to do the business, to do some development in that. But now the things are changing because many companies are coming, even the big players are coming. So even the government push is there. So government, all the ancillaries or the suppliers are now they are thinking that the future is electric. So now they already starting development of all these parts, because the big challenge is the power electronics, I would say, because that is the big thing where many people are importing the parts. But apart from this, there are a few companies who are getting even the other parts also, normal parts like sheet metal parts, plastic parts, they're also importing from them. So that should not be done by these companies. That makes sense for the consumer to also understand by the quality, because if you have a localization of the part, there's always a three things is very important in an automobile business, that is a QCD. One is the quality, second is the cost, and third is the delivery, that is after sales service. So if you have the supply base in your periphery, for example, in India, you have a better control on the quality, you have a better control on the cost, and you can give the better sales support to your dealers, to your consumer. So I think this power electronics parts or some other like already this Raghav has told about the cells. Of course, the cells will take time, but I think the other parts it won't take time more. I think maybe probably in a year or two, I think all these parts will be very easily available locally in India. So I think I would say वो दिल्ली दूर नहीं है. I think the time has come.
Hopefully it's not like May 3rd कि दूर होते होते भी पास होते होते भी दूर होता जाता है. But I think I'm going to ask something which is a little contentious, and Ganpati sir and Nishchay, please feel free to answer this. That when Jitender ji says that it's the onus is on the customer to pay more for an EV, how much of that responsibility can a bounce or a big basket take upon themselves and say that we're going to pay more for an EV and kind of make that stimulate the entire ecosystem by saying that? Is it even possible, or is it just theoretical?
No, what we believe strongly is EV should cost lesser than a ICE, is what we personally believe. Reason being, when you buy a scooter, you don't buy it with petrol, you fuel it whenever you require. Same thing should be applicable for EVs. You shouldn't be buying a vehicle. The major cost of the EV is a battery, and we strongly believe in a swapping infrastructure where you should be able to swap battery as you move. And once you take out the cost of the battery, the vehicle cost comes down drastically, and that creates a huge space of setting up this infrastructure of swapping. How do you source these battery packs? How do you charge for using these battery packs? How do you measure the performance and everything? So there is a huge opportunity for a lot of companies, especially the companies with deep pockets, like ones who are in oil business, be it Shell, Indian Oil, everyone. They're also putting in a lot of effort to set up this charging infrastructure plus swapping infrastructure. So in a long run, EV should always be cheaper than an ICE, both in terms of procurement, usage, and manufacturing, everything. I don't see any reason why it should be expensive or it is expensive. It's all about changing the business around it. We should go away. We should move away from the legacy thought process of owning everything. We should move towards shared economy. When I say shared economy, it can be as simple as just sharing the battery packs with others, or it can be sharing the entire vehicle with others. We are doing everything to ensure that we set up this swapping infrastructure. The entire fleet of 1,000 plus vehicles that are operational right now is completely operated on the swapping infrastructure. We don't bring back these vehicles to charge and then redeploy. We have set up more than 400 swap stations across the city of Bangalore. And when the battery is low, right now our ops team is swapping the battery, but in the long run, we will enable customers to simply swap the battery and move on. And as we move forward, probably if OEMs come forward, partner with us and start utilizing our swapping infrastructure, it will be great for them, so that they will be able to sell the vehicle at, say, 40,000, 45,000 rupees going forward, so that user will simply come, swap the battery and keep moving. Apart from that, we launched one city recently, not recently, it's been 3 months, a small city in Karnataka called Hassan. We launched about 200 scooters. It's completely electric and it's completely crowdsourced and it's completely swappable. We are clocking great number of kilometers, great number of rides every day. So EV is the future, and these small experiments has proven at scale that this is profitable, plus it makes sense, and it is possible to operate in these confined limitations of current EV technology.
So Ganpati sir, just taking on from what Nishchay said, that EVs should cost less in terms of manufacturing, in terms of ownership. Is that the correct way to think of EVs? Or are we just forcing that thought into everyone's mind? This is something which is going to cost less. I've seen economies across the world, Europe, US, Australia, they don't see EVs as saving cost. They just see EVs as being environmentally conscious, socially responsible purchases. That's why people pay more for these vehicles. So why in India is it that we always must have an EV as a low cost or a lower cost economics type of model? Is that even the correct way to think of it?
I wouldn't agree with you on that because from the perspective of the cost, if you really look at an EV vehicle versus a BS6 scooter, the price is almost there. Both of them are competing on the same cost. A difference of maybe around 5 to 6,000 rupees or so. I'm talking about a mid-segment vehicle. I'm not looking at a high-end vehicle, probably like an Ather or just costing 1 lakh plus. But if you look at a mid-segment kind of a vehicle, the price is there. It's already a reality. A typical BS6 vehicle, probably one of the Activas, costs around 75 to 80,000 rupees. And one of the electric variants, whether it's Okinawa or Ampere or any other vehicle, are in the same segment. The costing is already there and it's benchmarked. And with lower OPEX costs, that's why the pendulum is already swung in favor of the EV side.
Okay, so you're saying we're already there in terms of cost, so it's not a forced discussion, it is a reality, and so we should embrace that reality. Naman, how do you think of the entire question that was asked on resale value? Someone from the audience has asked that they financed a few electric vehicles and they found that within 24 months, they had to retire them and have 100% depreciation on this. As a VC, how do you all see the life of the EVs, and where is the challenge in getting a longer life or having warranties that last the life of the asset which you foresee or which you predict in your books?
I would echo the same thing, I think, which you just mentioned, that most of the customers we've spoken to in the shared mobility use case have faced the same problem, that the vehicle don't last for as long as they've been promised. Whether it is about battery life or the number of cycles, they just don't get the value which they thought of right from the beginning, and hence the economics doesn't work out for them as it works out in a theoretical way. The biggest reason for this, I would echo with the point which Nishchay made earlier, that the vehicles are not designed grounds up for the shared mobility use case or for a shared use case, because vehicles are mostly abused, if that is the right word. People just use it like any way. They will accelerate, decelerate in any way. They will not use it like their own vehicle. And hence the robustness which is required is much more intense as compared to a vehicle for a consumer use case or a private use case. And that is where I think we are currently lagging, which is why, despite economics being so much favorable, we are not able to see higher adoption or penetration of EVs even in B2B logistics use case or mobility use case. And what we require is probably a vehicle which is built grounds up for shared mobility use case or logistics use case. And most of the points which people raise, that financing is not available, probably both of these points are linked. If there is a vehicle which is robust enough to survive for many years, even for shared mobility use case, and with time, once there is data, there would be financing options which will start popping up. And maybe another line of thought is we need to think of recycling the batteries and thinking about second life of the batteries in order to get some value out of the existing used ones. So yeah, I think those are the 2-3 points which are interlinked and needs to be solved in order to derive higher penetration even in the B2B.
Yeah, Shubham, just to give my perspective on this, just interrupting you there, the swappable battery would be a game changer for the logistics industry and also for the B2C segment. I think the bounce person also brought out very clearly that they're using the swappable battery in their systems, and we are also using the same logic for ensuring that the asset, the main vehicle per se, is standalone from the battery, and the battery can be easily swapped to fit into the vehicle and give a desired result. Uh, the question which comes up here is, how do we scale up the ecosystem to ensure that the swapping happens? So each company will need to look at it individually and have their own strategy to address this particular question and derive the best economics out of it.
Very interesting. Raghav, I'm going to ask you this, that all of the answers that I heard just now on why an electric vehicle cannot last more than 2 years seem to relate along the battery. You're making the battery, so why can't you all make better batteries? And, ensure that we've got 3,000 cycles, 2,000 cycles, you live up to the warranties. Where is the challenge? Raghav, was I not audible?
Hi, sorry, I was on mute. Thanks, Aditya, for the question. So to your question, is there a better battery? So yes, the answer is absolutely there, that the better battery already exists. One of the biggest concerns is on the propensity to pay. And I think so Jitendra sir would echo with me on this. One of the primary discussions which sort of starts, primary things which the discussion starts revolving around is on the cost. Everybody is looking for like the best product, but at the lowest cost. And that's the sort of mindset that we need to structurally change. We can absolutely make a better battery. We've already tried, tested on the cell chemistry, on the product, on the battery management system, on incorporating the thermal design. The only challenge is on the cost part of it, that obviously once we start incorporating all of this, the cost sort of goes up, and then the propensity to pay goes down. So that's the 2 cents that I have, that the product exists, but the propensity does not.
So Jitendraji, where do you think that responsibility actually lies? So I've not got an answer to this. That who needs to step up and say that we are going to pay more for a better battery, we are going to pay more for a better EV. So we're not concerned with it being the cheapest cost, but we're concerned with it being the best quality. So where does that responsibility lie? Is it government? Is it VCs? Is it ecosystem creating companies like Bounce, like a Big Basket? Who is responsible for this?
Actually, I would say the responsibility lies with the individual person or the consumer or the society, because the main problem with India is like this. We have a intention to, as India is a cost sensitive market. Everybody wants to buy gold, but they want to pay the cost of silver. That is a big problem. So everybody wants the class 1 quality, but they want to give the B class cost. That is the main problem, because they are not matching apple to apple. That is one of the reason. And that is the reason that, as Raghav has already told, of course the battery is available with have the very good performance. Even you can use B2B, you can use B2C, they can perform well in all the conditions, but you have to pay for that. So this is all about the awareness, and where the consumer or the corporate companies, they understand so what they are buying and at what cost. So that is one reason thing. And I just add to your earlier question also, when everybody was talking about this financing of the vehicle, but I'm not agree with that, because as on today, I will ask like Okinawa. So if you ask any bank, they are already financing all the vehicles of ours. Like HDFC is financing, IDFC Bank is financing, even the other NBFC like Mannapuram or other companies, they are already financing the vehicles. So I think that thinking was earlier, maybe 2 years back, but now already all these banks, NBFC is already financing these vehicles of the EV also, same as the same rate of interest where they are doing for the IC engine also. And one question what Nishay was saying and Mr. Ganpati was discussing about that B2B, the vehicle, the robustness of the vehicle. The main problem with the B2B is like this, because in that case, there is no one owner. Every the rider who is riding the vehicle, they are not considering this is their own vehicle. So they are abusing the vehicle. And by the same time, also the guideline which is used to be how to usage of this vehicle, because this is just like a electronics vehicle. So we have to take care of those vehicles. It's not like the IC engine. So that is the only difference between that. If you follow the guidelines, how to take care of this vehicle, I think even the present condition of this vehicle also they can go for last long. Even if you see after FAME 2, the minimum warranty of a company has to give 3 years warranty of all the parts, even whether it's a battery or the other components also. So I think that was situation was earlier, but now the situation is already improved in terms of the performance of the vehicles. So, your earlier question, of course, product is available, everything is there. So you have to pay the cost according to the quality of the product.
Yeah. So, Ganpati sir, I think what do you see as the focus areas for skills or for individuals? What kind of skills should they develop, and what kind of avenues should startup entrepreneurs look at in the post-COVID era for EV ecosystems? What are the interesting business models that could exist? Could you just share some of your thoughts?
Thank you for that question. Before I take this question, I just want to echo what Mr. Jitendra said. And I agree with the last question where he had put across his point in terms of finance. We have engaged with the Government of India through SIDBI, and the loans are definitely available for individuals through a scheme called as Prayas, where the government is giving, the SIDBI is giving loans to last mile customers for at a lower interest rate. That's point number one. Second is regarding B2B customization of vehicle is a continual effort which needs to be focused on to make it robust for utilization in the B2B space. And we realize that, and our partner in Bounce also would echo the same thought that B2B is a different ball game, and we need to take care of that. Coming to your question regarding the startup space, as to what exactly is that we can look at for ensuring that the products are robust and made in India or whatever it is. I would like to answer this question in two ways. Firstly, this xenophobic attitude of saying that a particular segment is to be banned, I don't agree with that. Primarily because any sensible, logical business would always want to diversify their vendor base and ensure that they are not constrained by supply chain problems. So that is what we have strived at our end. Coming to the innovation point of view, there are a lot of startups with whom I interact with in the Indian space, and various technologies are being available, starting from swappable batteries to how to reduce the heat component, how to ensure that the battery lasts longer, how to reuse the battery and try to recycle the battery. There are various many things which are coming in. One segment which I have not seen, probably that could make a big difference, is presently that each particular manufacturer would like to promote his own product and look at tying up his battery closely with the BMS. Is it possible that the BMS can be a system which can be easily modified and can take on multiple kinds of batteries when the battery is over 2 years down the line? Of course, there will be challenges in this from ARAI homologation process, and also the Government of India coming and pitching in. And when Government of India can come and say that, look, give me an alternative for Zoom, and we challenge and throw up a 1 crore kind of a prize money, the same thing can be done for the EV space. That's my response to your question.
Yeah, so I love that answer. I think in terms of government incentives, government accelerants, perfect example. If the government can come in and say that please build a solution which parallels Zoom, why can we not come in and say, can we build alternatives for every product that we're importing from China? Nishchay, you said that Bounce is also developing vehicles ground up. Is that something which you feel is possible? And what are your views on innovation that can come up from the startup community to help the EV ecosystem just grow much faster?
Yes, of course, a company like us, we generate a lot of demand in the EV space for sure. we stimulate the market where we are pushing all the startups around battery pack to EV to everything, manufacturers, everyone to innovate more so that they can build better products at a lower cost, everything. And apart from that, yes, since we saw that there is a huge gap, at least from the UVE, I mean, building a very robust vehicle which can sustain the abuse or usage of multiple people over every day. For example, each scooter will be used by at least 250 to 300 guys every month, and it will be ridden for at least 2,000 to 2,500 kilometers every month, which is not a standard use case of regular vehicles which is available in the market. So we are sitting on a lot of data in terms of how users use, what usually breaks in Indian conditions, what should be the actual reliability of each part. Considering all of these things, we are building the entire vehicle grounds up, and we are attracting best of the best talents from across the globe uh, to make sure that we put out a best vehicle so that our users never think again of owning a vehicle and just use it whenever they need from us.
Nice. So, Naman, again, what type of startups do you think entrepreneurs should be looking at in the post-COVID EV ecosystem, which you think might be successful?
So largely, we see that there are 4 broad categories in the EV space. One is the OEM play. It can be like 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler buses. The other is the energy distribution play, whether it is swapping or charging. That is one category. Third category is the battery tech play, which like one of the pockets within that is what Inverted is doing themselves. And fourth is around the services play, which is more around mobility and logistic services. And we believe there are some, and within that there are multiple subcategories. There are very many pockets within these categories, and each of these pockets have multiple opportunities, whether it is 2-wheeler OEM or maybe a swapping business or battery. Even in battery, there can be like making a really great battery pack for Indian conditions, or reusing and recycling of the cells. So yeah, these are the 4 categories which we feel, and we believe that each of them has opportunities within the sub pockets of these 2. So yeah, broadly, if you want, I can go into subsectors, but I think that would be too long giving out our entire thesis.
Yeah, I think there's so many opportunities that you can't always completely list them down. Raghav, I have a contentious question for you. Everyone on the panel seems to be pro battery swapping, sees battery swapping as the way for EVs to grow. I think you and me have had multiple debates. You're on the side of battery swapping, I'm not. What do you think in terms of battery swapping? If people are allowed or people are given the responsibility to swap the batteries, how will that entire system work? Can you build a battery which will have all the required fail-safe mechanisms to ensure that it doesn't burst? What are your views on battery swapping?
Thanks, Aditya. So I believe that battery swapping as an option is absolutely viable and possible. To your question, that can we put in all these safety measures in place to ensure that a battery is not bursting or a battery is not being abused? So that is absolutely possible. We've built batteries around that to ensure that swapping can happen, and people can sort of handle the batteries irrespective of we can ensure that these batteries are not bursting and these batteries are sort of kept safe. So that is absolutely possible. A couple of things that sort of needs to happen is that the entire ecosystem needs to come together to ensure that everybody is using a similar charger, everybody is using a similar socket, because currently the battery swapping which is happening at a very localized level. So for example, a bounce is doing a battery swapping for their own set of vehicles, but that swapping infrastructure cannot be extended to the larger audience, because somebody would be using an Okinawa scooter, somebody might be using somebody else's scooter, and one battery cannot be plugged into the other OEM scooter. So until unless as an ecosystem we come together, we agree on a particular standard, agree on a particular connector, swapping to a B2C application seems difficult to me. Within a localized network of Big Basket or Bounce, that is still possible. but at a larger market, it might still be difficult with unstandardized specifications.
Nice. I think we've got a lot of answers to the questions we had. I'm just going to pull out a couple of the questions that people have asked. And if someone wants to ask it directly, please go ahead, interrupt me and ask. But I think there's one from Abhijit, which is said that is there RTO registration required for EV two-wheelers? If yes, then how many years is that registration valid? Jitenderji, would you be able to shed some light on this?
Yeah. In the EV, there is two category of vehicle. One is slow speed, another is high speed. In case of two-wheeler, it is not required. And when you go for the high speed, of course, it is required, and it is same as the IC engine, like for the 10 years. And the best part in the IC in this EV is that once you go for the registration of the vehicle, as on today, most of the states they already have there is a zero cost for the registration cost to the EV vehicles. So that is the best part for that.
So we've got Dhairya who's asked on lithium sulfate batteries and are they close to commercialization? So, Ganpati sir, would you have any views on that? The alternate forms of lithium-ion batteries apart from just NCM and LFP? Do you see alternate technologies disrupting what presently exists? Yeah, Raghav, could you take that? I'm not sure if Ganpati sir heard it.
So, Aditya, to your question, alternate technologies or alternate...
Cool. I think Ganpati sir is back.
Go ahead, Raghav. Okay, my point, I was just saying that whatever technology you want to use has to be reliable and safe and be able to use it to the end user. So whether it is lithium sulfate, is it ready in the market? I don't think so as of now. Raghav can probably answer this better.
So,
go ahead, Raghav.
So, Aditya, to your question, obviously, is LFP NMC the only technology which is going to get used in the coming future? The answer is no. There is a lot of research which is happening globally on different sort of chemistries with different dopants, and I'm sure people will come up with better products with higher energy density, with better energy throughput. So yes, I believe that this is not the only technology, and the technology will evolve over the next years.
Very cool. Nischay, would you have a view on any alternate battery technologies? Maybe something to do with sodium or just lithium sulfate, as someone said? Or does it seem like lithium ion with NCM and LFP would be the primary technology going forward?
Since we are operators and we are not much into it, we simply go with whatever delivers the best for us. If someone can prepare one more, today they do something, as soon as I recover the cost from it, I would be happy to let it go and adopt to the newest of the newest technology as soon as possible.
Well,
we are just
Naman,
waiting for the industry to innovate.
Yeah, so I think Naman, again, crystal ball gazing. Have you come across any interesting companies working on alternate technologies for batteries?
We have come across a few companies, but none of them have been able to, put those batteries into the market. So they are still in the R&D phase. So I think there is a lot of theoretical work around it, but we haven't seen anyone coming closer to putting batteries on ground and having some data around how they are performing. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I think we've reached close to the time that we had from everyone. It's close to be 90 minutes. In case there's any questions from the audience which I've missed out in terms of what you put on the chats, now is the best time to ask. So I'm going to give you all just like 30, 40 seconds. Whoever wants to unmute and ask, please do.
Hello, I'm Rishikesh. And I wanted to ask that the point which is currently going on, which was related to the swapping infrastructure, and one of the major... Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So that OEMs like Tata Motors and some even from abroad, they have been giving out warranties for their battery packs and their powertrain system as a whole for more than for like 8 years or 1,60,000 kilometers. So my question is, why can't this be incorporated into the bike and the three-wheeler market?
So, Jitendra ji, if you can take that, your best position.
Yeah, Rishikesh, thanks for your question. As you talk about the European market or maybe another countries, these battery which they are giving for the 8-year warranty and other things, I think they are in the four-wheeler only. First is that, and there the cost of the vehicle is so high, so that they can, like we already discussed a lot about the cost of the product and the cost of the batteries, their BMS and the other thermal and other things also. So that is possible in India also, but in that case also the cost of the battery, it will increase a lot. So if you see the life of the battery in lithium ion which is using nowadays in India, so normally we give the 1 to 3 years. It means if any problem happens in 3 years, we can replace the battery. So that is one part. And the life of the normal battery, if is a user is doing, so in the lithium ion case, it goes up to 4 to 5 years. And I think pretty good for the B2C customer. They can have a good life of the battery usage for that. So after that, they can go for change for it with some replacement cost of that. So same way we have to see also where we are living, where is the market. When there's a market of 100 rupees, we cannot sell 1,000 rupees cost of the product. So we have to see whether this market is a cost conscious or they don't care about the cost. They only want the high product quality, and where the cost is not the borderline for that. So that is, everything is available, then you have to pay for that.
Very good. We've got a very interesting question from Manan. Manan, would you want to ask it directly?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello. Yes, sir. My question is, what is the challenges to the grid stability in the EV charging structure? Because nowadays, as I am in the solar sector, so the export energy of the solar is also not handling by the now present grid scenario. So after the EV charging installation and also some other swapping structures, so it will largely impact on grid stability. So I want to know about what is the future of the grid stability and what are the challenges of grid stability.
Ganpati sir, if you would like, could you take that question?
I would like to take this question now. Yeah. Just around probably 2 weeks ago, we had a huge power shutdown in this country, which is actually a planned power shutdown, and the grid didn't go down. That's the first part of the story. Second part of the story is, if you're asking about grid stability in the EV charging scenario, I look at it in a very positive manner. There are two themes playing here. One is we have solar panels which are being continuously being put in place as a source of energy. I strongly feel that solar energy with the resale, the old batteries would play a big role in the future, where they will be made together and ensure that when the solar energy is not available, the battery will come into play and power up the end load and take on the responsibility of maintaining the grid stability. And just to give you insight, we already implemented the first of its kind in our own warehouse, where we don't have an access to a grid supply. We are powered from the solar on top of our warehouse. We have lithium-ion batteries which are kept in our warehouse, and the lithium-ion batteries are charged in the mornings, and the excess power is diverted to our end load. And in the evenings, whenever the batteries are discharging, it continues to discharge and provide the load. We have a standby diesel generator which can kick in if we are not able to provide energy for meeting our needs. But as the energy density of the batteries grow larger, I think even this problem would be addressed.
Awesome. So we've got just one last question. I'm going to ask Rakesh. Rakesh, he's asked on what are the unit economics for EVs. So what is the operation cost per kilometer per charge with respect to range for two-wheelers and three-wheelers in case of swapping? So I think Nishchay and Naman, since you're on the side of, people who've got the money who can amortize these costs, could you all just answer that? Rakesh, if you want to clarify the question, please do.
Sorry, can you briefly repeat the question because your voice was breaking? I was not able to hear completely.
Okay, so what Rakesh has asked is, what is the operation cost per kilometer per charge with respect to range for two-wheelers and three-wheelers in case of swapping?
From Bounce perspective, we don't see just a charge level. How we see is the overall life of the battery pack, how many kilometers it lasts, what is the cost of the battery, and what is the cost of the power, what is the cost of the interest for the sourcing, everything. Considering all of those things, it comes little less than fuel, probably 30-40% cheaper than fuel.
Okay, nice. And we've got one request from Akshay. He wants to ask a question. I think this is the last one, Akshay. So please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening all. My question is to Jitendra sir. So basically, I wanted to know why FAME 2 has not been taken a flight yet, and what are the challenges faced by OEM manufacturers to get back the subsidy from the government side. So maybe this year there were only 10% of the amount totally used. 2021 has highest amount of proposed amount, which is 4,500 crores. So what do you think? This year is the game of subsidy, or will it only the market fly on low speed applications?
Okay, thank you for your question. So if you ask me about this, of course, the main problem is, as I already explained earlier also, so there is this industry is not so organized as on today, because there is lots of slow speed vehicles players is there. They just import the parts and they are selling in the market. So that doesn't require any FAME 2. So by the same time, there is only few companies who certified by this FAME 2 certificate last year. And as this was last year was the first year of this FAME 2. So very less company, I think almost in the two-wheeler segment, there is only 4 or 5 companies who got this certification of FAME 2. And that was also not on the initial stage. They got, maybe some got in the first quarter, some got in the second quarter of the year. So that is one of the reasons. And that time, the reason behind that, because that required the localization of the part percentage and the performance of the vehicle also. So all the vehicles who is available in the market that time last year, they were not good enough to pass all these tests at the government agency, and that's why they could not qualify for the FAME 2. But in the same time, if you ask for this year, I think if you want to electrifying the future, I would say the transformation of the IC engine to electric vehicles, only high speed is the option, because slow speed will never be an option for the IC engine, because then it is an option of a cycle to the slow speed vehicle. So if you want to really go from IC to the electric vehicle, then we go for the high speed, and that required the FAME 2 also, because without FAME 2, then it become an expensive affair for the customer also. So I think this year, I think there will be more customer who will go for the high speed vehicles, and most of the vehicle will go for this FAME 2 subsidy for this year.
Yeah. So one last thing, I want to ask, what challenges are faced by OEMs to get back the subsidy from the government? Are you getting the subsidy on time, or do you need to?
I think that is not a problem, because earlier, because in this year, last year, 2019-20, when this FAME 2 was coming, that time initially, of course, there was some hiccups because the new portal was going on by the DHI. So that is the only reason. But as from the government side, for the support from their side, I don't think so as OEM, because Okinawa was the first company who was qualified for FAME 2. He never faced any problem to get this subsidy from the government. Of course, initial time, the first quarter or second quarter, there was some challenge because there was a new portal was making by the government. So it took some time. Otherwise, there is no problem at all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, I think in that spirit of saying well done to the government, I think all of us are thankful for the emphasis that they're currently putting on all of our well-beings. There's always something we can find which is going to be wrong with government. There's always something that we can find which will be wrong with an ecosystem. there's always something wrong which we can find with generally the economy and uptake of a technology which we are invested into. But overall, I think the direction, the momentum that India is going in, that EVs seem to be going in, that the government seems to be pushing us towards is positive. A lot of the reports I've read say that India will bounce back from whatever recession we face fastest. And I think it's because of the efforts of leaders like the people we have on the panel who take out this time to share with the youngsters that want to learn from them, that accelerant will be there in the economy. So thank you once and for all to Jitendraji, to Ganpati sir, to Nischay, to Naman and to Raghav for taking out 90 minutes of your time, sharing all of your experiences on EVs with the entire audience, for answering all the questions and for giving us hope that post-COVID, we have a lot of sunshine to look forward to. And hopefully we won't be as far away from each other as the government is saying that we need to. So we'll be closer than 6 feet of separation. But thank you so much for everyone's time. Anyone who has questions, please do drop them across to us. We'll make sure that we get them to the panelists and we'll try and get everyone to answer. And we'll also share the details for how you can get in touch with each of these companies for any opportunities, be it jobs, be it startups. So whatever it is, wherever we can help, we're right here. So thank you so much to everyone. Until we do another one of these sessions. Yeah, see you next time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
being
us.
with us.
Have a good day.
Yeah, good day.
Thank you.
क्या होगा, समझा नहीं क्या बोल रहे थे?